Woo! So, apologies for the attire. The time is 10 to 1 a.m. on the 13th of August. I've literally just walked in my house. My mum's had a massive stroke. So I've basically just done a shift in A&E, would be the best way to describe it. And it's a war zone in there. It is a war zone. Like, I'm being deadly serious. It's just that's a bioweapon nightmare in there. Now I haven't been, other than taking my mum to appointments, the occasional appointment, and that's generally in a community hospital that's quiet. I haven't been in an A&E for probably 5.5 years, and even that time wasn't even a big hospital. It wasn't even a proper hospital, A&E, so it's quiet. It it was a shock. It was a shock to the system. I mean, obviously it was traumatic because of what's happened to my mum, which so obviously she's had 2 shots of Pfizer. I believe it's Pfizer. And that was way back when. She hasn't had any since, but obviously, they forced that on her when I wasn't here. Anyway, so what happened is on Sunday she had a headache. I was up here, I was at my desk working, and I could hear her in pain downstairs. So I went down to check, and she just holding her head like, "Oh, I've just got a headache," like, and that was that. There's no other signs, no physical signs of anything. And then as the day went on, when I was talking to her, I started to notice that she was missing words out. And I said, "I'm going to call the doctor tomorrow." She's like, "No, no, no, no." And I was like, "No, no, I'll call the doctor." So then I called the GP yesterday, and they have now, when the slots finish in the morning, when they open, you can call in. And so when the day's slots are essentially full, which is pretty much in the first 10 minutes they open, they shut their phones. They won't answer the phone. And on the voicemail, it's like, "You need to call tomorrow." So, and my mum at this point, yesterday, it was obviously there was something not right. But as I say, there was no other signs. So she's kind of more noticeable change in her, basically. So I called up this morning and the receptionist was like, "Oh, I'll speak to a doctor and they'll call you back." And then literally within 5 minutes they were like, "No, you need to take her to hospital." So I called up 111 to see which hospital to go to, because she obviously needs a CT for a brain. And they told me which one to go to. It's a big one. So we went there, and yeah, it was intense. It was really intense. There were people in there that had been waiting for 40 hours. Like the hospital is rammed. Like every bed is taken. And the waiting room was over full. They had obviously it was hot today, but they had machines like blowing cold air into the reception, but the machine itself was pumping out hot air. So I mean, so it's like counterproductive. Anyway, in comparison to when I met a female doctor at this other uh, home, if you like, that doctor was a wrong one. Like she was a proper wrong one. Do you know what I mean? You can tell the difference. That doctor there knew what they were doing. Yeah, so they had there was malice, and you could see it, you could feel it, everything. But today, everyone that was in there, and I made a point of trying to speak to as many people as I could, whether they're outside patients or the receptionists and all the carers and the porters and all the doctors and nurses. And those people, they were different. And it is important to be able to tell the difference, because they're coming from a place of we're trying to help, and in the grander scheme of things, I would, having met them, I would say they are not responsible for this. They're not. It's a top down thing. And they're dealing with they're dealing with the aftermath. And a lot of those people are all victims themselves. And it's a very intense environment that I do not know how they do it. I I genuinely don't. I do not know how they do that day in, day out. Like, that's a lot. That's intense. There are people like literally dropping dead in there, like having heart attacks, codes everywhere. And we went we had to go and have the CT scan, and so we were taken there by this guy, and he took us out the outside way. Anyway, when we were coming back to the back to A&E, this other person took us back, and they took us through what's called majors. Now, I swear down, I felt like I was in a movie. Like, it was real. I was there. But it was like a scene from a movie. It was a scene from like a disaster movie. they're just like, they were literally, there were beds, there were beds everywhere. Like people in beds dying everywhere. It's like, what is this? What? Like, you know, you know, like the numbers, you know, you've read it all, and it's a different fucking game when you're in there, when you literally, it's right in front of your face. And I'm not in any way surprised that these people don't have the time. They don't have the time to sit and do all the reading and stuff that we've done. They're working like 10, 12, 14, 18, like 24-hour shifts, and then having barely any sleep. They've got partners, kids, homes, whatever, and then they go back to that. It's a fucking miracle they're sane at this point. So I have to eat some of my words here. I do, because I said some nasty things about doctors and nurses, and some of them are, yeah. And I've met the dark ones, so they do exist. There are malicious ones amongst them, and as I said, it's the NHS as a corporation and its policies, isn't it? It's top down. Who are they taking orders from? Above them, so on. Um, but yeah, I was to be honest with you, I was blown away in the sense of I was blown away with how they handled working in that environment. I That is not a job that many people can do. It isn't. You've got to be a certain type of person to be able to do that, to handle that. And I was asking them, like, you know what I mean? Asking them lots of questions. And yeah, and they were saying it's been like that. And they were quite honest. They were like, no, it never used to be like that. But they said it's gotten progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And one of the ladies that I spoke to, one of the heads, like nurses, she was like, I've been a nurse in this hospital for 12 years, and she said the last 2 days have been the worst two shifts I've ever done. And anyway, so factoring all of these things in, and I'm actually going to buy them something. Uh, Even though I was there fucking like what, uh, 10 hours? Yeah, longer than that. That's irrelevant. Yeah, that was a 10 hour. That was a 10 hour experience as far as I take it. And all, you know, even though my mum's had a stroke, and that's gonna complicate things to a certain degree. I'm I'm grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for meeting those people. I have a newfound respect for anyone that does that job, regardless of the injection, because that really isn't. their fault, is it? Because we can argue here, there, and everywhere, but the end, the it isn't. They didn't plan it. They didn't, you know, they didn't. It was forced upon them, and they're doing what they're told, and they have literally they don't have a second to breathe. Pretty much. I mean, there was a woman in there. It looked like her skin was falling off. I was like, this is insane. It's totally insane. Wow. So, having absorbed all of that information and overhearing people's conversations and meeting those people and gauging who they are, I'm going back tomorrow anyway, obviously, because Mum's staying in overnight and she has to finish her assessment tomorrow. But she'll be coming home at some point, whether it's tomorrow or the next day. Touch wood, that's what they're saying at the minute. And yeah, we'll just deal with it. But I'm gonna buy them something to say thank you, because it was actually a pleasure meeting them. It was. And that sounds weird. And not weird, but they aren't responsible. They're not. Where there is ability to manipulate free will, there is diminished responsibility. And that applies in that implies in that environment. I'm telling you now. 100%. And Pfizer should be shot. Like, there is no if, buts, or ands about it. That, they should be. They should, and the rest. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that right there, that's going on now in those hospitals is absolute chaos. And it would actually work much more efficiently if they were bereft of all of the information. And I don't think that there would be any. The only reason they're doing it is to protect themselves up here, to hiding the information. But within the NHS, and I'm going to test this theory tomorrow, but within the NHS, with the exceptions of the high level ones, I think they'd appreciate the honesty. I think they'd appreciate the honesty because then they'll understand their environment and why it's got so bad. It will make sense. And a lot of the other thing to consider is even I think the nation is too sick, too tired, and probably too, I hate to say it, but neurologically or cognitively impaired. And to varying degrees. And I don't think they'll be angry. I, I don't think they will be. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy them something. I'm going to give it tomorrow. I'm going to print off. I'm going to print off some of the. I'm going to print off some of the evidence. I carry a bundle with me anyway, everywhere, but and my laptop. But I'm gonna. There's a couple of people I've got in my mind that I met from today. I'm gonna say to. I'm gonna tell them, and I'm gonna go in with. Oh, have you heard about the lawsuits against? And then list the pharmaceutical companies for the contraceptive injection. And I'm going to go in that way. Oh, yeah, have you heard about that? Heard about the side effects and that? They get with brain tumour and that. It's 400 lawsuits against them already. I'm going that way. I think they'll. I think they'll appreciate it because, as I say, they're victims themselves. So you go and say, "Let's fucking class action the shit out of those bastards." I think they'll go, "Yes, please." So yeah. So despite my mum having a pretty big stroke, which was obviously quite traumatizing, all in all, the day was strangely good. Doesn't even make sense. It's true. And yeah, respect. Respect them. Respect to anyone who does that job. It is not an easy job. It's not a well paid job unless you're like up at the top. And the amount of shit that they have to deal with. Wow. So no wonder they make mistakes in that environment. No wonder. That's not an excuse, but when you when you're underpaid, when you're overworked, when you're working in a high pressure, intense environment like that, and like my mum, yeah, they had to give her some drugs to calm her down because she was literally like every few minutes she she was getting aggy because she's conscious of the fact that she's lost it a little bit, and so it was distressing for her. She didn't want to be there. She wanted to go home, and they were like, "Listen, you cannot go home until the doctor has seen you properly." And the doctor came over and was like, "If I need to get people to hold you down," I thought, "Don't go there, mate." And he was a nice doctor. And I understand what you're saying because she was getting aggy. And she's in a wheelchair. So if you've got like a big bloke, and again there was another example of this. Some other lad, and he was getting very aggy. Let's say that people have been waiting. It's nobody's fault. Whose fault is it? They're literally working non-stop, and the hospital is full. It's like And I said to him, are you short staffed, or is this like you're at full capacity staff and this is just literally the number of people coming in is causing all of this like delay and backlog, and there's no beds and nobody's leaving, so it doesn't free up any space and all of this. And she was like, yeah. I was like, do you use AI? No. Oh my god. And then I can't help it. My brain's like looking around at things like, oh, that can be done better, that can be done more efficiently. Like, and again, that's not in like a negative way at any person there, because it's not. It's a legacy. It's a legacy system. So they're just like patching things up here, there, and everywhere, and it's not really sorting any of the issues out. I was like, you need to roll out AI, mate, because seriously, you lot should not be having to handwrite. I mean, they must have rewritten my mum's notes about 6 times. I was like, where's the why? Why are you giving yourselves more work to do? Where has this come from? Why? And you could have a system that just does it while the person's speaking. How about that? So you don't even have to do it. You just have to read it and check it. Sign that off. Anyway, so yeah, you could make it so much more efficient. Like that is, it's a hot mess on so many fronts. But uh, the people there are nice at that hospital anyway. Despite all of that, so yeah, we'll see how tomorrow goes. I'm hoping they're going to go. This makes sense. We'll see. So I did say I was going to stop posting, and clearly